Yeah, I had a question. Do you have any mental models or frameworks when thinking about growth versus profitability?
Uh, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, again, there's not necessarily a right way to do it. I've always been a very like strong growth mindset kind of person. So, in my previous company, we did eventually hit profitability. But most of the time with Mercury and the previous company, we weren't necessarily like aiming for profitability. I think in my opinion, the really important thing is aiming for good unit economics, and then being very deliberate when you're investing in growth. So I don't personally like building a company where I know the unit economics are bad. Like every user I'm buying is like costing me more than I'm gonna get paid back in a year, or like I'm just like selling them a service that actually costs me more than it is to serve them. But if the unit economics are good, then it's a question about like, do I want to invest in the future versus, and investing in the future is like kind of over hiring, or like, oh yeah, maybe it takes you 12 months or 24 months to get like full payback on users, so you might end up spending a lot of money this month, but you're not going to get paid back for a long time. There's a good model that Fred Wilson has. It's like, I can't remember what he calls it. It's like the 40% rule or something like that. But basically it's like you take your kind of growth and subtract your margin, and that should be 40%. So if you're growing 200%, then you can have a minus 160% kind of cost, if that makes sense. Like you can spend 160% more than your revenue. But if you're growing less than 40%, you should be, you should be spending like, you should be making 40% more than your costs are. I think that's like a good kind of mental framework. Like if you're growing fast, I mean, obviously like people at day zero are always going to have like near infinity growth, right? Like you just like started from zero. But once you're like 6 months in, hopefully you get like an understanding of that. So that's kind of one way to think about it. The other important thing is like to have a good, I know this isn't like quite binary and isn't always obvious, but I think it's, if you have a good idea of like, have you hit product market fit yet? I think if you're pre-product market fit, you just want to be, if you don't quite have the product right, you don't want to be throwing like fire, like you don't want to be like increasing your burn and like trying to grow really hard. Like you need like a strong like base, and that strong base doesn't necessarily come from like more people and more costs. Like actually I think less people, like a team of like 5 to 8 people are more likely to like be able to iterate and find product market fit than like a huge team, just because it's very hard to be kind of agile when you're a big team. So I would say if you don't have product market fit, like be a bit more conservative. I mean, there's not even a point necessarily to aiming for growth, apart from if it gives you like a better sense of whether you have product market fit yet. I think once you do have product market fit, I think it's a different equation where you can like, okay, then it's like, how do I press kind of feel on this like thing that's working?